We begin by praising Allah Azza wa Jal, Lord of the Alameen, which is mankind, jinn and everything that exists. And we bear witness that Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is his slave and his messenger. Allah Azza wa Jalla says in the Quran, بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. O you who believe, fear Allah, the fear that He deserves, and die not except in a state of Islam, which is absolute submission to Allah Azza wa Jalla in all that He ordered us and forbid us from. My dear brothers in Islam, subhanallah, gambling in Islam is haram. That's something that's known, that's something that is a given. And that's gambling of wealth or any other material belonging that you can gamble with. And subhanAllah, it's funny how our kids don't realize, or we don't realize, that some of the toys that you play at a circus or a carnival, even in the shopping center, that one where you put the 20 cents and or the dollar, and if he catches the toy, that's gambling. Because if they get it, they win, and the owner, because it's worth more than the dollar, loses. And if they don't get it, they've gambled. Subhanallah, they've lost the dollar and the owner wins. And gambling is sort of a foolish act, and it's addiction. A lot of people, they get addicted real quick. I remember subhanallah, a stepfather. So after the mother had kids and struggled and went through an ugly divorce, and the father wasn't helping and they were causing problems, this man wanted to marry that divorcee. And after a long process, because she, when a woman gets divorced, especially in that situation, she doesn't trust anyone real quick. So it was a very, very long process to gain her trust and for her to accept. As soon as she accepted, a couple of months into it, he got a gambling addiction. And subhanAllah, his life spiraled out of control after that. Now he's in jail. So subhanAllah, that's with material belongings. Now let me ask a question. What would you call someone who would gamble a body part? A hand, an arm, a leg. So here's $1,000, here's the die. Throw the die, if it's 1, you get the $1,000. If it's any other number, you give me your arm. Call someone like that a fool, wouldn't you? Someone who would gamble an arm, a body, a limb, an eye, a kidney. Oh, I got 2. Someone who would gamble a body part for a few $1,000s is a fool. What would you call someone then who would gamble his entire dunya and akhirah? When we sin, when we take the risk of going to sleep having committed haram and not having repented yet, we are gambling our entire dunya and akhirah. SubhanAllah, I remember a story of a sheikh where a few young shabab gambled their dunya and their akhirah. You know how shabab, they get together, they go out on a Saturday night, every haram in the book. These 4 shabab, 2 in each car, met up at a certain location to jump in one car and to go and do about their business that Saturday night. As they parked their 2 cars at that location, a brother walking past knew by the way they're dressed, where they're meeting up, where they're going at this time on a Saturday night. He knew what they were up to, so he stopped and he spoke to them. And subhanAllah, he was able to get through to 2 of them. So 2 of them agreed. They pulled up, they understood, they were moved, and they decided not to go. So after this brother left, the 2 that wanted to go got into an argument with the 2 that didn't want to go. So now they're standing there in the middle of the street, arguing, fighting over wanting to go do haram, and the other 2 didn't want to go do haram. And that's a true test of friendship, isn't it? When I turn to good, shouldn't my friend be happy for me? These people got angry, they got into an argument, and then they stormed off, jumped into their car, turned on the car, and because he's angry, he gave it. Chuck in a U-turn, and a car came and slammed them and killed both of them. 2 minutes after they got the reminder, they were killed. 2 minutes after they rejected the reminder, they were killed. 2 minutes after Allah gave them one last chance, they were killed. 2 minutes after they rejected Allah, they were killed. 2 minutes after they were trying to convince 2 people to go and commit the haram, they were killed. They gambled their life and they lost their entire akhirah. They lost the entire akhirah. When you think about it that way, it's pretty foolish to do, eh? Because gambling is gambling a portion of your wealth, or even if it's all your wealth, but at that specific time, compared to the rest of the wealth you'll have for the rest of your life. Isn't that right? If that within itself is foolish, imagine gambling the eternity, and we don't know when we're going to die. Who knows when they're going to die? Yeah, I remember a 30-year-old healthy young man, taqwa, deen, everything. One day he just couldn't get up out of bed. They went to the doctors, they checked his heart. His heart had swollen to 3 or 4 times its size. He got some sort of disease. He went from being a young healthy man to not being able to take 4 steps until he feels like his heart's going to explode. So they go to the doctor checks him up and tells him there is one option, but there's 80% risk you'll die. So there's an operation that we can do, but there's an 80% risk you can die. Now this person, being God-fearing, already being connected to Allah Azza wa Jal, and not wanting to live like this, can't even get up, can't even do his chores, can't even go around and worship Allah Azza wa Jal properly, walked down to the mosque. He goes, let's do it. So the doctor did it, and this man came out of his coma, came out of his operation. The doctor himself goes, I don't know how he survived. The doctor himself operating goes, Wallahi, I don't know how he survived. 80% chance he's going to die in that operation. He only survived by a miracle. 7 months after the operation, the doctor gets a call. He goes, you know that man that he operated 7 months ago? He goes, he died. He goes, what do you mean? I just checked him 2 weeks ago. He came in for a checkup. His heart was perfect. His health was perfect. He goes, well, I was just sitting down with his dad drinking some coffee and just fell over and died. You never know when you're going to die. An 80% chance operation he lived through, and 7 months later he died drinking a coffee with his father. Completely unrelated to his sickness or his disease. SubhanAllah. So how can we take the chance? How can we take the chance of doing haram, or not even doing haram, just leaving good actions? What makes you think I'll get a chance to do it tomorrow? What makes us think that I'll start my sunnah tomorrow, I'll start my donations tomorrow, I'll start my tasbih tomorrow? Oh, once my business builds this much, then I'll start donating. What makes you think that that's going to happen? Who gave you that guarantee? You know, subhanAllah, I remember Ahmed Harashi, that used to wash the dead in Likamba, the Maqsal. I remember he told me a story that made my hair stand. Till today, I haven't forgotten it. They buried the dead person, they covered the grave, and he got on the excavator and he's been digging a hole next to it. He likes to prepare. So he was digging a hole next to it in case they called him all of a sudden, and he's got something ready. He goes, after everyone had left and I'm digging the second hole, I'm sitting in the excavator. Someone so tall that he was taller than me while sitting in the excavator stands on the side. He comes up to me, goes to me, he was tall, dark, with leather jacket. He goes, brother, is there another dead person? He was shocked. He looked at him. He goes, no, brother, I'm just trying to be prepared in case they call me all of a sudden. So they spoke a few words, and his friends were calling him, Ya Ali, let's go, Ya Ali, let's go. So the brother disappears. 2-3 days later, he gets a call from Amin Sayyid. It tells him, prepare a grave for us and make it long. Now he didn't put 2 and 2 together at the moment, because he only made him for a minute or 2. So he goes, all right. He went, he dug the grave. The dead body came. He put him in the grave. He goes, this man was so long, I had to bend his legs to get him in the hole. He put him in the hole. He covered the hole. The people came. They gave their dua and so on, and they left. And after everyone left, his wife came, and she was standing over the grave. He finished. He looked at her. He goes, sister, what happened? She goes, wallah, I don't know what to tell you. He went to sleep at night. He didn't wake up in the morning. He goes, that's all that happened? She goes, yeah, there was nothing wrong with him. He wasn't sick. He didn't have a disease. He didn't. So as he's talking to her, he looks at the grave and he says, Ali. Now it clicks. Very tall brother. His name's Ali. And he burst into tears. He said, did your husband wear a leather jacket? She goes, he used to love his leather jacket. Everywhere he used to go was with that leather jacket. And he burst into tears. Why? Because that brother looked at his grave. He saw he was going to be buried till the day of judgment, and he thought it was for someone else. 2 days later, he was in it. He asked him, is there another dead person? He's thinking that that's for someone else. Not an inkling of thought that that would be him there in a couple of days. Allah, you never know. So why are we taking that chance? Why are we taking that chance? Why are we going to sleep knowing that our soul, wallahi, our soul leaves our body and stands in front of Allah? Every night, my soul leaves my body and goes and stands in front of Allah. No matter what I've done, good or bad. That alone, even if you know you're going to wake up the next morning, should put you in a state of such shame if you've sinned, to make you repent before you sleep. Let alone not even knowing if your soul's going to come back. So if it's done good, that's it, it's over. If it's done bad, forget it. Forgive me, man. My own brother, my own son, my own daughter. How many chances would I give him? How many chances would I give her before I'd say, get out of my house? My own son. Allah Azza wa Jal, every night, 365 days a year. How old am I? 30, 40, 50? Times that by 365. Every single night, Allah took our soul, it stood in front of Him, and every single night, Allah told the angels, give him another chance. Put his soul back in his body. Maybe he turns back to me. Maybe he repents. How merciful is Allah Azza wa Jal? So the question I want to ask is, the question that the Prophet ﷺ asked, when he was asked about the Day of Judgment, when is the Day of Judgment? What did he say? ماذا أعددت لها? What have you prepared for it? What have we prepared for our akhirah? Am I pleased with what I've prepared for the akhirah? I swear to you by Allah, I'm not. Am I happy with what I've got to stand in front of Allah and be judged? See, one of the scholars, he passed by a man doing something wrong, and he stopped and he asked him, he goes, brother, are you happy to die in the state that you're in? He goes, no. So I looked at him like that. What's wrong with this guy? He's not happy. He knows he's not ready to die. He's not happy that, and death can come in a second, right? So it didn't click with him. Are you happy to die in the state that you're in? He goes, no. He goes, are you in the process of bettering yourself so that you die in the state that you'd be pleased with? He goes, no. This guy doesn't make sense to him. He goes, do you know when you're going to die? He goes, no. He goes, has the angel of death told you, you know what, when the time comes, I'm not going to tell you now, but when the time comes, I'll inform you before I come? He goes, no. He couldn't believe what he's hearing. He goes, do you have a get out of hellfire free card or something that when you go in the akhirah, if Allah tells the angels take you to hell, you can tell them no, stop? He goes, no. He goes, wallahi, I have never seen a sane human being, a person that's right in his mind, except the state that you're living in right now. How can we know at any second with complete conviction that at any second, wallahi, one of us here could not even, all of us here could not even get to the salam in this khutbah. I standing up here might not even finish the khutbah. We all have this conviction. How can we have this conviction yet at the same time accept the state that we're living in? How can I know, especially if I've lived 20, 30, 40 years, how can I know that I've got less to live than I've already lived and still continue to run after the dunya? How? How does that make sense? And I specifically mentioned the dunya, why? Because the Prophet ﷺ told us the only way that you can make sure you're ready, make sure you're preparing yourself for that time, is to remember what? The destroyer of desires. Death. Because the second that you know you're going to die, how many times have you heard it? 30, 40, 50 years struggling with cigarettes, you can never let it go, it's an addiction. I can't do it, leaves it for a month, he gets back on, leaves it for a week, he gets back on, leaves it for 6 months, he gets back on, leaves it for a whole year. I know brothers, a whole year. Left it to the extent where if he smelt it, he'd get disgusted. Then back on. Tell that person that if you continue like this, you've got 3 months to live. The next 20 years, we'll never even think about it again. The destroyer of desires, that's the only way. That's the only way. To constantly remember the destroyer of desires, that will immediately put you in a state of mind to start preparing for our akhirah. And that's how the companions were. Omar used to say, I used to take a step and never think I'll take the next one. Abu Bakr used to say, I used to take a breath in and I never think that I'll breathe out again. That's how prepared they were. Ali radiallahu anhu used to walk around and ask people questions in the grave. He came up to a grave one day, he goes, "Oh, person of the grave," he goes, "Tell me of your state. What's happening to you in there in that grave? Because if you want to know our state," he goes, "that money that you spent your whole life running after has been divided amongst others. Those wives," well, let's leave it at wife. "That wife that you married, looked after, took care of, spent your life serving and being good to, she's married someone else. And that house you built, that 20, 30 years you struggled to build that house, someone else is living in it. So tell us of your situation." SubhanAllah, we work so hard. We build. And the kuffar, not the Muslims, the kuffar themselves. I remember a politician in Lebanon, when he died, this is years ago. When he died, he told them, "Well, when you put me in the coffin and you're taking me down to the grave, cut a hole in the grave and stick my hand out so I can show people that I left with nothing." Politicians in Lebanon is corrupt. It's not like here. Like, you're not held accountable for what you did. You can kill and massacre and murder and you're still a politician. So Allah alam how many people he killed, how many people he ripped off and so on to get to the wealth he had. He wanted to show people that when he died, he left with nothing in his hand. And that's a non-Muslim. And us Muslims, we're killing each other. We're killing each other for that dollar. SubhanAllah. So it's up to us what we build for our akhirah. See, if we worked in this dunya, building this dunya to the best of our ability, while not, again, I specifically, or I'm emphasizing this point, while not destroying our akhirah, then that would be fine. A lot of people, they build and they have businesses, but you know what? A third, half of their wealth is all going fi sabilillah. So that's their own contribution itself. But to build my dunya while destroying my akhirah, that's why people don't want to die. Who wants to leave something that he built for something that he destroyed? But wallah, to work and work and work, yeah, I'll give $100 here and $1,000 there. What does that mean? The reward is according to the sacrifice. If I'm making $1 million a year and I'm putting 10,000 towards sadaqat, what's that? That's nothing. Am I proud to stand in front of Allah with that? But then again, if I'm making 30 grand a year and I'm putting 10, I'm giving a third of my wealth throughout the year, then that's something of significance. So it comes down to the sacrifice, subhanAllah. So why do we know this and we still work for the dunya? Why do we know this and we still take the risk, we still gamble? And that's the hadith of Rasulullah. What did he say? He goes, people are asleep. We're alive, me and you. We're awake, we're walking around, we're working, we're buying, we're selling, we're having kids, we're going out for entertainment, for dinners, but we're asleep. The Prophet ﷺ is telling us we're asleep. Completely oblivious to the reality. Completely oblivious. We know it. 100% conviction in our heart that that's true. But we live completely oblivious to that fact. And when they die, that's what the Prophet ﷺ says. When they die, that's when they'll really wake up. That's when me and you will really wake up. That's when we will see, wallahi, I'm swearing to you by Allah, the physical embodiment of our hasanat and our sayyat. That's when you actually see in front of your eyes that tasbihah, what it got me. And that evil word that I said, where it put me. How many years, in which level, under which sort of punishment. Wallahi, the physical embodiment of our hasanat and sayyat. That's when people wake up. That's when it's pulling his hair out. That's when his hair is turning grey. That's when he's screaming out and saying, what have I done? Oh my God, what have I done? Now he wants to say, Ya Allah. يقول يا ليتني قدمت لحياتي. Oh, how I wish I sent forth good actions, not for my akhirah. Allah called it in the Quran for my life, because he realized that's the true life. Wallahi, we're asleep. Wallahi, we're asleep. We're going to walk out of here asleep. Wallahi, me and you are walking out of here asleep. Because no matter how much we wake up in the akhirah, that's when we really wake up. In comparison, we're asleep. That's when we're going to scream out and beg. That's when we're going to cry blood, wallahi blood, For that cent I didn't give in sadaqah. For that gathering I saw and I walked away from that Qur'an that popped up and I turned it off. That's when I'll cry blood. Even the righteous, they'll say, I wish I'd done more. That's the reality. That's the reality that we have to live with. That's why we have to constantly remember death, so they can put us on that path. So that when my soul leaves my body at night when I sleep, I'm remembering death so much that I've already repented. That's it. There's no way I'll put my head on that pillow before I've repented. There's no way I'll put my head on that pillow and say, tomorrow I'll do this good action. I'll do it now, before I sleep. Because like they say, tomorrow never dies. The shaitan will keep playing with you tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow, and there'll be 15 and 20 and 30 years, and then you're in your grave and you're still saying tomorrow. But it won't be you that's saying, it'll be your kids walking away from your grave saying, what are we going to go out for lunch? What are we going to have for lunch now? Your own kids. Your own kids. That you bled for. That you sweat for. That you spent everything on. That are taking your wealth after you die. They're walking away from your grave after they put you in that ground, and they're saying, what are we going to have for lunch? SubhanAllah. No wonder why the Prophet ﷺ said, if you knew what I knew, you would cry a lot and you would laugh little. SubhanAllah. I ask Allah Azza wa Jal to give us the true understanding and the true reality and make us live by it. آمين. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم فيا فوز المستغفرين. بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. My dear brothers in Islam, not one soul, me or you or our ancestors or the people to come in the future, not one soul leaves its body except the caller will call out, O friend of Allah, glad tidings to you of Jannah. Or, O enemy of Allah, evil tidings to you of Jahannam. That's all it comes down to. That's all it comes down to. Those two statements. If it's good, the rest is better. If it's bad, the rest is worse. Someone, subhanAllah, it blows my mind. I always like to give the example, and because I've already taken too long, I'll just skip over to the end. Someone wants to go overseas today. So what does he do? He rocks up at the airport. Alhamdulillah, he knew at least that he has to go to the airport. He rocks up at the airport, rocks up to the lady at the counter. He goes, I want to go overseas. She goes, where? He goes, I don't know. She goes, what do you mean you don't know? You the one that wants to go overseas. Where do you want to go? He goes, I don't know. She goes, pick a place. So he just randomly picks any place on the board. And she goes, all right, you need a ticket. He goes, what's a ticket for? She goes, you need a ticket to get on the plane. Are you from another planet or something? He goes, all right, give me a ticket then. He goes, where's your money? He goes, what money? Inshallah, we're giving out free tickets. If anyone knows about that, let me know. Sure. You need money to buy the ticket. So he goes and he picks up some money and he comes back. So he buys the ticket, and then she asks him for his passport. Or at the door they ask him for the passport. He goes, what passport? Don't you know you can't go to another country without a passport? He goes, no. He goes, all right, go get your passport. So the guy goes, gets back his passport, and he comes back. He jumps on this plane and he goes to the country that he just randomly chose. Now this guy, he never asked what language they speak, so he can be able to communicate. He doesn't ask what currency they use, so he can buy food and drink. He doesn't ask what diseases they have, so that he can get inoculated. He doesn't ask what crime rate there is there, so he knows what to be careful. He doesn't ask nothing. He just rocks up at that country. He gets off the plane. He cops a disease. He gets bashed and he gets mugged and he dies. Now scenario 2. Another bloke wants to go overseas. He knows exactly where he wants to go. He researches everything. The language, the currency, the crime rate, the diseases there are in that country, everything. He gets his money ready. He buys his ticket. His passport is at hand. He jumps on the plane, completely prepared. He knows everything. Then he lands at the country that he's going to. He gets off the plane. He cops a disease. He gets bashed and mugged and he dies. Now who's worse? The one that knew or the one that didn't know? The one that knew, and he still ended up in the same situation that the person that didn't know ended up in. How foolish is that? He knew, he researched, but he done nothing about it. So he ended up in the exact same state that fool who didn't know anything ended up in. And what's that example of? The disbeliever, the kafir, and the Muslim who sins. That's the example of the disbeliever, the kafir, and the Muslim that sins. The disbeliever is going to hellfire because he doesn't know, and it was his responsibility to find out. There's no excuse on the Day of Judgment. It was his responsibility to find out. Now he's a fool. He should have found out. Therefore he deserves hellfire. But you know the Muslim who sins, that's who you say haram alayh. He knew everything and he ended up right there beside the kafir in hellfire. What a fool. If anything, he deserves it more. You knew and you still ended up right there beside him. I ask Allah Azza wa Jalla to make us of those who know and act upon it, so we don't end up beside those kuffar in hellfire. I ask Allah Azza wa Jalla to make us of those who know and act upon it and help others, save them out of hellfire. And I ask Allah Azza wa Jalla to keep us steadfast on that path until we face Him, until that first step in Jannah, when we can, that's it, it's over. That's it, we can be safe and secure. Ameen.
I wanna be in Jannah, Jannah, yeah. Jannah, Jannah. Every Muslim dreams to be up in Jannah, 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 Jannah. A pious person's destiny. Inshallah in Jannah, 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 Jannah.